Hey guys, back with another video, and without the summer skirmish, I had a gap of stuff to look at, but I've been thoroughly enjoying these build fight compilations by Thwifo, Martoz, all those guys who are doing them, and there's a lot of stuff to study there, and I'm just going to analyze the meta, build fight meta in the pro level, and also kind of compare it to what my experience is in FMPL and casuals and whatever. Let's hop right into it. Alright, so the first thing I want to talk about is how the scissors jump is developing, and that's the technique where you put there's anything above you and you jump out to the side and place the floor and go from there. So we'll watch a couple clips of some pros doing that, Thwifo and guys like that. Alright, so basically the pros are kind of not so digging this technique. They are using it in rare circumstances, but what basically you see is whenever they do it, they almost always are placing the floor and going straight back at the ramp instead of double ramping out. And the reason for that is there's a couple reasons. Number one is that this floor is really weak. This is the only piece holding up double ramp, so there's just if this is rotated that way, there's just this stair piece and that, and then the ramp outside as well, but you don't actually need to break that. You just need to break this floor piece and this, and it falls down. So they're not trying to double ramp out too much. They basically always are coming back and looking at it. So the reason this technique is starting to be a thing is a lot of people are looking for alternatives when they get pyramid blocked and when they pyramid block themselves. So this technique is actually becoming very, very useful and viable in FMPL, and people are doing it in all sorts of playground fights and whatever. It's when you're running up and somebody's ramping up towards you and you want to make sure that they can't ramp over you. You put a pyramid over yourself and then edit through and then continue. So that's very, very useful, and people are using that all the time in FMPL scrim. So even in casual games you'll see that. But people on the other side of this, when the pyramid is here, well actually let's see, this is how it's going to look from the other side. Is this pyramid goes here and you basically can run on and continue through, but people are now waiting for the edit through. Especially in playground fights, you'll see people finally like realize who they're fighting against and which direction they come through, and they just wait for the edit and they just shoot you, and then they continue on and do whatever they want. So that's how the current casual non-pro meta is developing. They just kind of wait for it and so forth. So you kind of need a new way to do this. You can switch directions and whatever, but scissors jumping is one that's very attractive because it looks fancy and is really cool. But I would recommend that this is what the pros are doing. They're almost always just doing this, and the reason being is that that floor is really weak. But we'll also see another counter, and so let's look at those clips of counters. Alright, so there you saw Martoz just kind of run up and then place floors on all the different corners that you could jump off, and that's really basic and it's very self-explanatory. Once you place the floor, they kind of hit their head, and so I'll show you Martoz actually getting caught by Magin. He places the floor and Martoz actually falls, and you can imagine how much this could set you back, because it's really hard to catch yourself if you're not used to being blocked like this. You kind of have to put a wall and then place the floor, and even then you're already below the point that you started with. Let's watch that.
I'm a bot. Nice block.
So in my last video I showed this tip where C shows us how to get through a floor that's your own and there's a stairs above, and you can use the scissors jump for that. So I want to show a different application that Kyzui shows us, and I'll show that. Let's roll that clip right now. So in that clip, Kyzui is actually getting pyramid blocked on himself, so there's an opponent on the other side of this. He gets pyramid blocked, and what Kyzui does is immediately recognizes which direction the guy is going to go. So when you pyramid block, you generally go somewhere else. You go this way or something like that. This is obviously from the wrong side, but what Kyzui does, recognizes which direction he's going. He jumps out, scissors jumps, and then places floors all around. So if you're on this side and you try to go out to the side here, you get blocked by Kyzui over here, who jumped out, placed the floor, and then he placed the floor over here, and you saw the rest. So that's just a really interesting way to do a counter to getting pyramid blocked, is actually immediately countering them. And the speed that you need to do that is very high, but you'll see people be. So that's it on Suzer Sniping. We'll go back to pyramid blocking in a bit, but I do want to touch on how much these European players like Martoz, Magin, Micho, these guys are pioneering the 90s. And I'm asking myself always the question, how do you use 90s besides the first turn when you're build fighting? Like, what else do you do, right? And so let's watch some clips of how they use it.
Wait.
Alright, so the moral of the story is use 90s wherever you would normally use a 180, and they do it so fast that you don't really have to worry about the protection. Just whenever you would do, like if you're double stairsing and somebody is following you up and you decide you want to do the 180 and whatever, so you could just do a 90 instead. So come up 90, come up 90, and you continue, and now you're one floor above, and so on. So basically the moral is whenever you would normally do a 180, apply a 90 degree instead. And you could do this however much you want, and if they're not shooting at you, you can go even higher. If you have high ground, you can use it even to get even higher, very fast with limited mats instead of a 180. So those 90s aren't really being used yet. I mean, mostly people in FMPL are using them in playground fights on the turn, or basically that's pretty much it. But you're going to see this be applied. Even the pros in NA, I feel like, aren't really applying 90s as much. Maybe Poach is doing it a lot. That's pretty much the only guy I really see doing 90s frequently. But Martoz, Magin, these guys are really using them to get height very fast. And it's pretty impressive. So,
Thank you.
Alright, so that was a clip of Martoz versus somebody, and his opponent actually, Martoz catches him with a floor above him when the guy is doing a 180 or 90 or something like that, and the guy places a pyramid directly on top to block him. And this is a very common strategy that's coming out now. It's pretty old, I'd say, but I'd say this is like one of the things that the pros started doing and the FMPL and casual players started doing immediately. They realized, hey, when I get floored above, when somebody floors me, I can just put a pyramid above. So let's see how it looks on the other side. From this point of view, when you're this guy, somebody floors you above, you can just put a pyramid and continue on your merry business with your whatever, double ramps out or something like that. And yeah, that's it. So the flip side of this is the meta's developing now where the pros are starting to use both flooring. They floor and pyramid immediately, or floor stairs, or whatever is easier for them, and then they edit down on you anyways, and they open it up. So you just have to be fast. People are going to be really fast. We'll see a little bit more of this floor combination with pyramid, because as the competitive scene increases, as people are getting more mechanical and faster, you're going to need to think about everywhere you put a floor to cover yourself, or everywhere you put a floor to block your opponent, you're going to want to put a pyramid as well. So we'll see more of that right now. Alright, so we're back to the application of pyramid blocking yourself. The thing that I want to talk about first is how people are blocking this, and I'll roll a clip here of Martoz placing floors underneath basically, and here it is. Alright, so as we saw, a very easy counter to somebody putting pyramids down is, we already saw the way to block the scissors jump is to place floors on the side, but Martoz, you can also place floors directly underneath the pyramids, and this is already catching on a little bit. I've fought people who are already starting to do this, but not very frequently. So basically just place floors underneath the pyramids, and they can no longer edit through. They have to break the floor and then edit through, and even then you can just replace the floor. So they have to go somewhere else after you block them like this. Now on the flip side of that, and I just showed you the clip of Magin, basically whenever he pyramid blocks himself, he puts floors as well, and then it edits through so he can continue on his merry way and do whatever he wants. So like I said, wherever you put pyramids, or wherever you put pyramids to block somebody or block yourself, or wherever you put floors to block somebody or block yourself, always start putting pyramids and floors, because even though it delays you a little bit, as players, we're going to get faster and block each other off because they basically block the same thing. They basically protect against the same thing. So as we get better as players, as we get faster as players, we're going to be doing that counter all the time. So it's going to be a fight to whoever gets things off first. So just try to get both of them off and try to get the edit through the floor and the pyramid as fast as possible. Okay. Alright, so the last thing I want to talk about is how Thwifo is starting to, whenever he does his pyramid block on himself, he now just turns around and just goes straight above. And the reason for this is, as we talked about, people who are on the other side of that, whenever somebody pyramids blocks themselves, they're going to wait for the edit through, and so Thwifo just goes backwards and immediately goes up, and they're still down there looking for, oh, he's like, where is he going? And by the time that happens, Thwifo's got the high ground. And so that's a really unique thing to Thwifo that I've seen so far, but Martoz is starting to do that. Everybody's starting to do that, but not necessarily in FMPL yet, even though this is a very, very basic thing. Just turn around. You see Kyzui always doing this as well. Whenever he takes a shot at somebody, he turns around and goes back the other way because it's harder for somebody to track you that way. And this is a very, very obvious place to do it. All right, guys, that's a wrap. So that was, yeah, I didn't have much to do in terms of summer skirmishes, but build fight compilations are always fun to watch. I'm always watching Thwifo. Every single Thwifo video, every single Martoz video, every single Magin video that comes out, I'm in there watching it. And you can actually learn a lot of stuff from there, even though it's just mostly flashy build fight stuff where people are pickaxing each other. Thwifo, you can still learn a lot. So even if you watch them for enjoyment, I'd recommend, guys, watch them for educational content. There's so much stuff packed in there, so many new techniques, so many techniques that have been shown on Reddit but not really applied in anywhere that are actually being applied in. The pros are thinking about this all the time. They're always thinking about the next thing. What's the next thing that's going to evolve? And I'm guaranteeing you, when they're in Playground right now, they're already thinking of the new counters, the new techniques that are being. Guys, if you like that video, please like, follow, subscribe on Twitch, YouTube, and do all the social media things, and I'll be back with more content just like this.